Rahim, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sadia, and you're watching at TV with Sadia Saadat. Today, the topic that we will be discussing is the current and present situation regarding the fourth party agenda, in which we have Kashmir, China, India, and also now the China is also a part of it. Um, and then, secondly, the most important issue that we'll be discussing would be the India being the member of the non-permanent member of United Nations Security Council, and then we have with us the LKD team, which is the Let Kashmir Decide campaign, and they're working really hard for the Kashmir cause. Um, we really need to tap into the areas that what things we should be doing so that we can have the Kashmir get their freedom. Um, this campaign, the Let Kashmir Decide, they have very good success in a very short span of time. We have their members with us, so we'll be talking to them. We have with us Senator Hussain Syed Sahab. Then we have Waqas Akram from Let Kashmir Decide campaign. He's the media coordinator, and he's the one who has gathered all of us here. We have with us Soraya Boyd. She is the CEO of the Facilitate Global NGO. And then we have Claire Bidwel. She is the co-founder of Let Kashmir Decide movement. And then we have Sajjad Karim Saab. He is the European Member Parliament from 2004 to 2019. So we will be discussing these issues. With your permission, the respected guest, Sajjad Karim Saab and Senator Mushtaq Hussain Saab. Can I just start with Waqas, because I wanted to really quickly ask him what he's doing in relation to the Let Kashmir Decide movement. So Waqas, can you quickly please tell me what your campaign has been doing so far?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I would like to say thank you to all our respectable guests, Senator Mushahid Hussain Syed Sahib, Sajjad Karim Sahib, Raja Zafar Sahib. He will be joining us soon. And also Claire Bidwel, co-founder of Let Kashmir Decide, Soraya Board. So, and also I'm really thankful to you, Sadia, and your Art TV team to giving us opportunity so we can express our views on Kashmir and we can raise our voice. Let Kashmir Decide campaign, we have successfully engaged people from 30 countries of the world to raise Kashmir cause. So what our main focus is as Kashmiris or the main party of this dispute. So it is Kashmiri's mandate, Kashmiri people mandate to decide about their future. Like you have seen recent move that India revoked the Article 370 and 35A, and they made that Indian occupied Kashmir as a union territory. So that's not what we want. That's not the United Nations resolution says. Okay, it is only and only the Kashmiri people's mandate that through the right of self-determination, through a plebiscite, they can decide about their future. So that's why we have started this campaign that we are requesting United Nations and all nations of the world to support, to join us for this Kashmir cause, and also the atrocities that Indian forces being committed in Indian occupied Kashmir, because you have seen in past days that they are burning homes. Though this issue is 70 years old long, but from once after the Modi government, that fascist regime and their Hindutva ideology, so things are going worse in Indian occupied Kashmir now. So there are a lot of innocent killings. There are like their security forces, they are killing the innocent people, unarmed people, and a lot of changes. They are bringing that domicile law there. So that's why we are engaging the common people. As you know, like I have seen in the United States and in all other Western countries that people, the common people, the general public, they're coming out of the streets with Palestinian flags. They are coming out of the streets with Syrian flags to show the solidarity, and they are raising voice for the human rights in like Palestine and Syria. So why people are not coming, the general public or the common public, they are not coming with the Kashmiri flag to show the solidarity with the Kashmir? The reason is lack of awareness. people in the Western world, like their general public, there is a lack of awareness. I mean, they are not more aware about this Kashmir issue. So that's why our focus is the common people in the Western countries all over the world to raise this cause, and our struggle is for our right of self-determination.
Okay. Mushaid Hussain Syed Saab, can I ask you this question that you have worked with so many government and you've been the senator for so long. Could you please tell us that which government you think was the closer to resolving the Kashmir issue? What do you think in your views?
I would say that in 1999, a year after Pakistan and India became nuclear powers, India tested first on May 11th, 1998, and we tested in response on 28th May 1998. I was then Minister for Information, Culture and Tourism, and I was the chief spokesman of Pakistan during that period when we went nuclear. And remember, we went nuclear for our security, while India went nuclear for their status. After that, Mr. Vajpayee came to Pakistan, the Indian Prime Minister, and he came on a bus journey to Pakistan in March 1999, and there was talk, February 1999, to Lahore, and there was apparently a willingness on the part of India then. And I respect Mr. Vajpayee, the late Mr. Vajpayee, because he had a certain stature, and I would say he had an Nixonian vision to see situations outside the box and to have an outreach for a settlement. But since Mr. Modi has come in, I feel that the situation has changed because he has an ideological foreign policy, which is based on the Hindutva doctrine of domination by majority rule of the Hindutva extremists in India, and which is based on Muslim bashing at home and Pakistan bashing outside, and the way they have annexed occupied Kashmir and Ladakh on 5th of August 2019, he seems to have slammed the doors for a dialogue and for a Kashmir settlement in the earliest. So I feel the chances are less for Indian initiatives, but I do feel there is a glimmer of hope on Kashmir because we see a resonance of the Kashmir issue internationally through the media, through the academia, through the think tanks, and through parliamentary diplomacy. And we also feel that the recent visit of the UN Secretary General to Pakistan, the recent clash of India with China, where India did get a thrashing. Now Kashmir has become what I call a trilateral issue. It's no longer about Pakistan and India. And of course, the Kashmiri people are the principal stakeholders, but it's also China now. And because Chinese territory has also been occupied by India. So there is, and you saw the cover story of The Economist last year, Intolerant to India. You've seen Joe Biden, the American presidential candidate of the Democratic Party, 2 days ago, talking of the rights of Kashmiris. This was unthinkable before. So these, I'm not talking of Amnesty or Human Rights Watch.
Yeah, it is quite a success that finally Joe Biden.
Yes. So you can see the highest levels of the American political system. You are seeing the resonance of the Kashmir cause. And before that, in Britain also, the former Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn had spoken about Kashmir also.
Yes,
so
he's spoken.
We see that resonance. Bernie Sanders also spoke about Kashmir. So we see the resonance, but it has to be a systematic, sustained campaign. And I welcome the initiative of Claire Bidwel that she has let Kashmir decide. I think it's important. 70% of the Battle of Kashmir is about the battle of ideas, the battle of narratives, which is going to be fought through the think tanks, academia, media, the power of public opinion. I think that is what we have to mobilize, which has a moral clarity also and a moral authority also.
Yeah. We do have Raja Zafarul Haq. He's the chairman of PML-N and the leader of opposition. Sir, can you hear us?
I think you can hear us. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah.
We can hear you loud and clear. We can hear
okay. Sajjad Haider, can I start with you first? That you were a member of European Parliament. What do you think in the European Parliament, since you were the member? So what do you think they think of Kashmir issue at large?
Well, first of all, may I say it's a pleasure to join with you. It's the first time I've spoken on the platform of Let Kashmir Decide, which I think is a wonderful initiative. And I'd like to congratulate Claire and Waqas both for having taken this initiative. Mushahid Hussain and I are, of course, friends. We are not strangers when it comes to the Kashmir or the issues that Pakistan has on the international stage. But dealing specifically with Kashmir at a European Union level, we found ourselves in a situation where really the European Union's position was quite reflective of the global position in terms of lack of political appetite to formally deal with the issue by way of proper constructive agenda or institutionalized debate. It was and remains very much an ad hoc item which appears from time to time, and even then at an EU level, only within the European Parliament. It hasn't been able to penetrate into the other EU institutions in any meaningful way, although we have, within the European External Action Service, been able to see that there are now some developments taking place there. The one item of real negotiation that was taking place between the European Union and India was in relation to the EU-India Free Trade Agreement. And it is the European Parliament that introduced into the negotiating mandate the issue of Kashmir on a human rights basis. And that happened at a time when we at a European Union level made it compulsory that there must be a human rights clause in all of the free trade agreements that we finalize. Of course, that agreement then very quickly came to an abrupt stop in terms of negotiations, and we haven't really seen any movement or development since that time. And I think there's an important point here, and now I speak as a Briton. With the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union, so far as the EU-India Free Trade Agreement negotiations were concerned, we had basically 5 red lines, 4 of which had been set by the United Kingdom. Now, of course, with the United Kingdom wanting to negotiate its own free trade agreement with India, I think it will be quite telling if the United Kingdom is able to overlook the situation in Kashmir and overlook the human rights abuses and finalize an agreement duly approved by the Parliament of the United Kingdom. If we see a finalized free trade agreement between the UK and India approved without these issues being resolved, then I think that really is a very dangerous sign as to how the United Kingdom as a country is going to be moving forward when it comes to human rights.
Okay, thank you. Raja Zafar Laksab, can I ask you that in the current situation where we see there is a lot going on, the tension going on between China and India and Pakistan as well, and also on the other hand, we see that Nepal is also coming forward and they are quite angry with the situation over there is also, I think they are also playing anti-hate songs on their FM. So the people and the Indian community inside, they're quite learning a lot about the what the Modi government is doing. So what do you think, what exactly at the moment should be done to tackle these issues and in relation to the Kashmir?
Thank you very much. Actually, I would certainly agree with the 2 speakers who spoke earlier. It's a fact that the human rights issue is the real issue, and it has to be vigorously pursued, not only in the world around Pakistan and India, but also in the European democracies. And I have always thought, and I have also witnessed that if we organize the Kashmiri diaspora in Europe, that they will be more effective than anyone else. They know the facts, they know the feelings, and they can express very well what they want. And their word would carry weight also. So I think some weeks ago, there was a lot of organized demonstrations in Britain and other countries of Europe, and that had good effect on the European Union. And I think that has to be restarted again. India at present is confronted with China, and they lost a face, and they also lost a few people, also about 24 people.
Yeah.
So I think they also have learned a lesson that merely by total negativity, they cannot uh, organize the word opinion as they used to be. And this thought is, I think, from within India, very well taken. And there are more and more people from inside India who speak very openly against the policies of Mr. Modi. And
Yes,
I
exactly.
think, but how long can the Kashmiris wait till the
Exactly.
turn of the tide in the Indian politics? So Pakistan has all the time tried that we should have a proper good neighborly relations with India, and there shouldn't be any communal thoughts uh, within our relationship. That is why our Prime Minister had offered that we can open up the Kartarpura uh, shrine on the eve of the death anniversary of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. India has refused. Similarly, all that Pakistan desires, it is blocked by India. But that block itself, it hurts India more than either the Kashmiris or Pakistan. And India today has very critical relations with all its neighbors, whether it is China or Nepal or Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So I think the atmosphere is such that if we evolve
It's quite
a
intense.
program,
Yeah.
that could also educate the Indian public as well. And that will have more telling effect than anything else. So I believe that uh, your organization is doing, we are really grateful and we are impressed by that. And I hope that you will continue it.
Yeah, inshallah.
Yes, please.
Would you like to tell us that you've gone so far with this organization? So what do you think, which are the still the areas that you think there's work need to be done?
Yeah, mainly, I think one of well, there's a few. I think unity is key. I think Raja Zafar there was right. The Kashmiri diaspora are amazing in the UK. And one of the reasons this Let Kashmir Decide campaign has been so successful is the way that they've embraced that. I mean, I co-founded this group quite simply on a desire to go to Kashmir and get the Indian troops out. It was just this sense of injustice. So the Tea Party, you know, going to Kashmir and having a tea event, taking members of the world with us to stand in solidarity and raise awareness is where that came from. I mean, I co-founded this group based on a Facebook group with Javad Quayum in Azad. So it was like that voice on the inside, the voice on the outside. And it gradually grew on the steps towards arranging the tea event. So it became about the process. So the Kashmiri diaspora were incredibly welcoming. And so, you know, and embracing that new initiative to bridge between them and the Western community. So, you know, I gained a lot of knowledge from that. And, you know, the protests they were doing, I was invited along to. And I mean, some of it is just the disunity because, you know, the different narratives or the different way they support Kashmir meant they were, you know, like in different camps. And under the banner of Let Kashmir Decide, it was something that we could all work to together. So that that's where one of our aims is to work together, which is coming along really well, which has given the strength to this. The other one is clearly within the UK public. So yesterday you saw we had, you know, the amazing Twitter storm for Free Yasin Malik. It was first in Pakistan, but it didn't even feature in the UK because there was some football team at the top, you know, a Eurovision Song Contest and very mundane things. So we need to bring the issue of the human rights issue and what's happening in Kashmir out. So it's that raising of awareness and unity, I think, are goals at the moment.
Yeah, talking of the human rights, Soraya, you're the CEO of the Facilitate People NGO, and you have worked in the different countries. Especially, what difference you exactly see between the Palestine and the Kashmir? What do you think could be done? And I don't know, because we see so many genocide attack in there. There's so many women which are gang raped in Kashmir. So many innocent children are being killed there. What else they need what else they need to do, like some action in the Kashmir and to resolve it? Because they're everything, all kind of human violation we see in Kashmir. And why is it still not being resolved?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Hello, salam alaikum. Thank you very much for
we can't hear you.
having me. I can hear you. My mic is on. You can't hear me.
I could hear you, Soraya.
Okay, my mic is on. I'm terribly sorry. I have very little control over my phone. I can hear you all, and only Claire can hear me.
No, we can.
You can?
I can.
Yeah, we all
can you put your hand up if you can hear me, please? Just one person can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very well. Thank you. Lovely, thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank both Claire and Waqas. They have worked tremendously and they have achieved such a great amount in such a short time. And it really is a tremendous example of what people can do from a bottom-up perspective when they work together in a manner which is coordinated, coherent, and unified. So congratulations. I'm delighted to be here and share this panel with you. Now, you asked me a question about the parallels between Palestine and Kashmir. I have spent the last 25 years highlighting the similarities between the two. And of course, in the last re-election of Modi, the acceleration of the policies that were and have been put in place by the government of Israel, which is all about dispossession, de-development, and annexation. These policies have been taken up by Modi and his cohort. So they are both operating through the lens of ethnocentric settler colonial expansionist, which by implication means that they are not inclusive. They seek to deny those which they occupy and rule over. So that's one of the first great similarities. Secondly, most of the respective policies are policies that are systematic and systemic in terms of the repression and the oppression. And with regard to putting forward a specific narrative, namely that Israel only seeks to defend itself, that it is the only democracy in the Middle East, and that Modi seeks to basically see the emergence of a Hindutva ideologically framed system of governance in India. Now, let's not forget who shot Gandhi. It wasn't a Hindu who shot Gandhi. I would like to say that, first of all, when Hinduism is weaponized, it becomes Hindutva. Just as when Judaism is weaponized, it becomes Zionism. So it's nothing to do with being secular, democratic, constitutional, or even pluralistic. It's quite the opposite. Now, when it comes to the way in which people are affected on a very normal, everyday, ordinary level, the collective experiences of both Palestinians in occupied Palestine and Kashmiris in Indian occupied Kashmir are extraordinarily similar. On the 6th of March, on the occasion of International Women's Day, I hosted an event in which I invited two fellow Palestinian ladies from East Jerusalem and two fellow Kashmiri ladies from the Valley. And when they were all recounting their all individual experiences, it was just astonishing to come to understand and realize how extraordinarily similar their respective individual experiences were, albeit in different geographies and under different systems of military occupying rule. So my intention is to draw closer ties between Palestinian struggle and the Kashmiri struggle, because at the end of the day, these are struggles that are quite similar in terms of their liberation aspiration. And with all liberation struggles, the right to self-determine only belongs to the people and not to any government, occupying forces or otherwise. So the Geneva Conventions, all of them are quite clear as to what is prohibited and what is prohibited under the laws of military occupation. And clearly, both Israel and also Modi and his BJP, RSS, Hindutva rule have all been very much continuously breaching the convention. So when it comes to the international legal norms that were formulated by the so-called Western democratic states, we have seen that many have only sort of tended to pay lip service to upholding the rule of law. When it comes to Britain, Britain is also a member of the United Nations Security Council. Now, the United Nations Security Council's mandate is the promotion of international peace and security. Clearly, Britain is in dereliction of duty with regard to that, but also Britain is in dereliction of duty in regard to every other international legal norms it claims to uphold. It is not the only one to be in dereliction of its duty. Recently, we heard that Biden, as sort of would-be candidate, decided to put his penny's worth in it. And but we all know that it is simply lip service, that if he had really been quite concerned about
talking about the lip service, sorry to cut you, but I really wanted to add some question here from Senator Mushaid Hussain Syed. Talking about the lip service, we see that the present government is talking a lot about resolving the Kashmir issue. But when it comes to the selection of India as a non-permanent member of United Nations Security Council, there is nothing from there. There was complete silence from the Pakistani side, and even also all the other Arab countries. I don't know why is that. I'm completely failed to understand why why they just did it and did not raise any voice against this. And to my knowledge, I think two of the countries are thinking of they're making probably thinking of making them the permanent member, and the three countries are Germany, Brazil, and India. And we all know Germany is a strong economy, so it will be the next one. But from Brazil and India, it seems to me like as if they are like really trying to make India as a permanent member after. And we do not see any opposition from our government. Why is it? Do you have any idea?
Well, I think clearly.
First of all, I'd like to endorse what esteemed Raja Zafar said, because he's the leader of the opposition and the Senate, which is controlled by the opposition. And he is very right when he says that the Kashmiri diaspora should be included, and also voices in India which oppose Modi's fascistic policies. And I might add for your information that on 5th of June, Senator Raja Zafar Sahib sponsored a resolution in the Senate of Pakistan, which was passed unanimously, supporting the Kashmiri people's struggle, expressing solidarity with Kashmir, and also, and this was the first resolution, which also talked about the India-China clash on the border, and we also expressed solidarity, all the government and the opposition also. So the Parliament of Pakistan has been in the forefront of taking position on issues, and that's inside. Secondly, about this issue of the Indian membership, of course, non-permanent of the UN Security Council, in my budget speech recently, I raised this issue. And I said that we seem to have given, the government seems to have given India a walkover in the UN Security Council. And then soon after my speech, the foreign minister came to the parliament and he gave a response to my speech and said, he actually said it was some part of an arrangement because the Asia Pacific group in the UN had agreed. And I said that the important issue was we should have raised an objection that given India's track record of crimes against humanity committed against the people of occupied Kashmir, India's credentials for membership are suspect, even though it's a non-permanent membership for 2 years. And the foreign minister responded that Pakistan also is a candidate in 2024 for a 2-year stint. Having said that, I'd like to mention that right now there is no possibility of India becoming a permanent member of the UN Security Council. There has been a lobbying and effort from India, from Germany, from Japan, and from Brazil, and supported by the United States of America and even by Britain. But that has been opposed by China and also by other countries like Pakistan, by South Korea, Argentina, and so, you know, people have taken different positions on that. And this kind of membership is not possible because India is itself violating UN Security Council resolutions. And secondly, this is part of a larger agenda of reform of the United Nations, on which there has to be a broad consensus. So we do not want to create new monopolies. Already there's a veto power by 5 countries. And then you create new monopolies from among countries like India, which were willful violators of the UN Security Council. So on that issue, I think it's important that initiatives taken by organizations like Let Kashmir Decide, and I think this initiative has to be taken forward because the government is also talking in Pakistan of thinking of sending special envoys on Kashmir, mobilizing, and we have also talked of parliamentary diplomacy in that regard. And I would add one other aspect, that the legal option. If you remember when Modi went to the United States in September 2019 in Houston, there was a case filed against him by the Kashmir Khalistan Referendum Front. And that case was accepted in the court of law in the United States because there's universal jurisdiction on human rights issues. And in the European Court of Human Rights, if you remember, the dictator of Chile, General Pinochet, was arrested in London for what he had done to his own people in Chile, not in UK, but the jurisdiction was universal. So I think we should also use that option, a legal option against Modi, because what India is doing under his government and RSS. And one final word, what Raja Sahab also mentioned about Indian public opinion. You remember the famous article of Arundhati Roy, the eminent Indian writer and journalist, also an author. And she had said in the New York Times that the RSS is the state in India. And the title of the article was "Silence is the Loudest Sound." And she had also mentioned that an architecture of fascism is being erected in India under the leadership of Modi and this Hindutva crowd, who are basically religious bigots and religious extremists. So there's a lot going for the case of the Kashmiri people.
And also, like, we do see that there are like, and we also do see that some of the army journalists, they're stating that they can win the 2 front war battle, but here we see that they have really lost against China. And I think
we welcome. I think there's a sense of satisfaction in the smaller countries of South Asia that India got a taste of its own medicine. And they got a good thrashing from the Chinese side because they were bullying Nepal, they were pressuring Pakistan, they were putting pressure on Bangladesh also, and of course they have been brutalizing occupied Kashmir. So I think it's about time that India was told to stop, and this
hegemonyism
of India has been blocked down.
20 soldiers were died on the battlefield, and then 76 were sent into, and they also died. So
no, more than that is the humiliation of India.
Very
the
bad.
humiliation of India. India had pretensions of being a big power, of competing with China. I think that arrogance of India.
Do you think when China is internally, it's getting weaker day by day because of all these issues? Do you think Pakistan should proceed in any way? Like, what thing can be done at the moment to for this Kashmir cause? Is it not a perfect point, when India is itself weak?
This is for Rajasthan?
No, it was for you.
Oh, it's for me, I see, okay. No, I think that this is the right time that we have to, in Pakistan, the problem has been that the government has had a very ad hoc, moment-to-moment reactive approach. And we have been advocating that this has to be a sustained, this is a long haul. And 70% of the battle has to be the battle of ideas. So, and on that, there has to be a broad national consensus for a Kashmir policy and a Kashmir strategy with the government and the opposition on one platform. Because Kashmir, like the nuclear program of Pakistan, like CPEC, is an issue which is above party lines. And the opposition in the Senate and otherwise has been willing to support them. So we would say, I was put on this Apex Kashmir committee from the opposition side. And when we had the meeting last year, I was the one who came with a paper, 4-page paper, what is to be done and how to do it, in which I also mentioned the Kashmiri diaspora. And I said that this has to be a sustained effort. Now they say, I heard the Prime Minister of Pakistan say 2 days ago when he went to Azad Kashmir in Zafar, that they're going to revive that effort. And we're going to expose India there. You can see the Economist had a cover story, Intolerant India. So India is getting a bashing in the international media. So the conditions are conducive. The case is strong, but the case has to be pushed in an organized, systematic manner. And I feel parliamentary diplomacy, the legal front, I mentioned the European Court of Human Rights. You remember last year, we had a conference in the House of Commons, along with the all parties parliamentary group on Kashmir. And my Senate Foreign Affairs Committee went to London, along with the Foreign Minister, Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi. And we had very good interaction with the British parliamentarians and our British colleagues, both in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. And I think that this is where it needs to be taken. And I mentioned about Joe Biden speaking up on Kashmir also for a change. So there are a lot of important,
and then when we talk about the
thing I'd like to mention that the UN Secretary General was in Pakistan in February, Antonio Guterres. And I had 2 meetings with him because as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, we hosted him also. And he mentioned that the UN Security Council resolutions on Kashmir are still valid today. And the Kashmir issue should be resolved on the basis of United Nations Security Council resolutions and on the basis of respecting the rights of the Kashmiri people. So I think that's very important that at the highest level of the United Nations, there's a voice for the Kashmir. Now it's the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan, as well as international public opinion, people like Claire, people like Soraya, people like Sajjad Karim, who has done a damn good job in the European Parliament to take this forward.
Exactly. Sajjad Karim Sahab, I would like to ask you, Let Kashmir Decide, they have written a letter to New Zealand, and they New Zealand was first saying this, that it's their internal issue. But now they are to the point that they have realized that this is not their internal issue, and there is definitely a violence going on, and there is a dispute. So they have realized it. Which other countries we should be tapping into who could make a very positive progress in this issue?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of your question. Which country did you refer to in particular?
New Zealand. New Zealand.
Oh, I see. Yes, yeah. Well, my own view is that when one looks at the global situation, there clearly is not a political appetite to meaningfully engage on the issue of Kashmir. It has for many decades just simply been kept in a position of deep storage, deep freeze. Pakistan, I have to say, in the 20 years or so that I've been directly engaged on this issue, has been the one nation that has consistently always argued for the rights of the people of Kashmir to have self-determination as to what their final status should be. There are, of course, voices from time to time that have provided support to Pakistan, but it is always Pakistan that has led on this particular mission. It has been its foreign policy stance number one throughout. But when one looks at the international institutions today, and in particular the attack that has been unfolded on the United Nations, on the World Trade Organization, on NATO, on the European Union, on all of these multilateral fora, multi-state organizations, you see a situation where the rule of law and the application of the rule of law even within those institutions has now been challenged to a point that you have people like Mr. Modi who feel extremely confident in undertaking the sort of draconian illegal actions under international law, knowing that there will be no real recourse against what he has done. Now, all of those actions, unfortunately, have been led by the weakening of the international institutions, have been led by the Trump administration. This is a statement of fact. And I speak as somebody who greatly values American leadership in the world based upon traditional American values of tolerance and democracy and the rule of law. All of that, I'm afraid, at this moment in time has been weakened to a point where the weakest in the world are going to feel the greatest of burdens placed on their shoulders. And that is why we see the situation of Kashmir in the way that it is. In terms of how we can best move forward from where we are at this moment in time, we find ourselves in a situation where one party to the dispute, that is India, and this is a dispute now of four parties, India, Pakistan, the people of Kashmir, and China. And I really do welcome China's involvement. They were, in my view, always a party. However, they operated a policy, as far as we were concerned, of equidistance, of not really wanting to engage in just trying to keep matters stable and leaving things at a particular point frozen. Now China finds itself in a very different situation. It is going to have to be constructively engaged upon this. And that is what I see today as a game changer, because China's involvement in any issue is not something that the West can carry on just simply ignoring. So when it comes to the issue of Kashmir, the West is no longer going to be in a position simply to take the view that this is a dispute between two neighbors that they must resolve between themselves, and we will provide lip service from the outside. As soon as China's involvement in any meaningful way, particularly where there is risk for conflict, is concerned, then you know that that conflict is not going to be limited purely and only to India and China. There will be spillover of that. And therefore, the international community can no longer afford to ignore this situation.
So do you have any other country in mind, or is just at large we just do it?
Well, I think I was quite comprehensive in the answer that I provided. It's not just so much about individual countries. If you're trying to allude to the situation of the United Kingdom, then I'm afraid today the United Kingdom, although we are members of the United Nations
Security Council, the United Kingdom has to really work for it to finish off this agenda, which is their unfinished agenda anyway. Okay, the last question.
The issue, let me please deal with this point, because I think it's important. So far as the United Kingdom's position is concerned, I am afraid today as a country, having taken a step back from a very powerful position within Europe, we today now find ourselves not in the position of strength that we were in before. Previously, I've already alluded to, for instance, negotiations that were taking place between the European Union and India. And it was the United Kingdom that had put down 4 of the red lines that eventually led to a breakdown of those negotiations. I'm not going to run through them now, but 4 of those were ours. Today, both the European Union has abandoned all 5 of those red lines, and the United Kingdom very soon is going to abandon 4. The political culture is such today in the United Kingdom that I'm afraid India's position is such that we cannot afford to raise these points of principle simply based upon our own economic needs and the situation economically that we see emerging a matter of months from now.
Thank you so much. Raja Sahab, can I ask you this last question that at this present situation where China is really gaining entry into Ladakh area, and I think so much area has been captured by Chinese now. So what do you think should Pakistan be doing at this point?
Other members of the Security Council, permanent members, and there are more powerful countries. But I think the importance of Great Britain is very important for resolving any international issue. They have the background, they have the will, they have the education on human rights, and they are very effective. So organizations like yours, and there are other people also who are working on the same level, that they should have a loose sort of organization to coordinate their efforts for the cause of Kashmir and for ameliorating their problems. So I think if you all coordinate amongst yourselves, that would be a great step forward for the cause of Kashmiris.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of you respected guests. And I hope this agenda should come to the point where Kashmir is resolved and then they have their own peaceful world to live in, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.